so that the direction of the picture is in the script. Everything is in the script.
Welcome to the Script Awards Los Angeles. My name is Matt. I'm very happy to be back once again to host the Roundtable for that script competition. This is the 18th competition the Script Awards organizes, and this Roundtable is for September 2022. So this year, and let's get right into it and welcome all the writers we have this time. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon or good morning or good what? Let's start with that. Where are you guys? I'm in California. Branislava, where are you?
I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay, Michigan. Mike, where are you?
I'm in the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay, Samuel.
I'm in Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Okay, Ian.
Like Mike, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm in Herndon, Virginia. It's about 20 minutes outside D.C.
Okay, JW.
I live in Harlem, New York.
Okay, so pretty East Coast, all that, East and South. Very good. So you all are winners of the 18th edition of the Script Awards Los Angeles. Very happy I have the chance to talk to you. Like I said a little bit before we started this roundtable, it's always a game of trying to promote your script, talk about your script. Without the people listening, they didn't read the script, at least not yet. So this is going to be about what is it about and who are you and what happened that made you become a writer. So let's start with that. Branislava, what got you into writing?
Oh, well, I was originally, and I am originally an actor. I have a background in Serbian language and literature. And I never really wrote screenplays before. And during the pandemic, I was working with a group of writers and directors, and they inspired me. And I just started my first writing of the script that I just wrote, American Dream, that won for the best first-time writer for a short script.
Which makes sense. This is your first script, and you got the win for the best first-time script writer.
Yes.
So that's a good one. That means they want you to keep writing, I guess. It was good. So you have to keep going. Mike, you got the win for best book. We're going to talk about the book a little bit later. First, what got you into writing?
I practiced law for almost 30 years. Actually, I still am in part. I'm working on one television production right now. Can't really talk about it. It's confidential. I provided the story, though. I practiced law for almost 30 years, and I decided I need a change urgently. I had been drafting stories all along, and COVID finally gave me the opportunity to turn these stories into screenplays and books. So it's thanks to COVID, in a sense.
Okay. COVID creating some opportunities for some people to have some time to write some more stories. Ian, what about you? What got you into writing?
So I've always just been obsessed with movies and books from a very young age. I wrote to Tom Hanks when I was like 6, and he wrote back, and that has really inspired me to want to get into film and just dip my toe in the water there. And so I just graduated from James Madison University last May, and it was there that I tackled a creative writing minor, which gave me the opportunity to take different screenwriting classes. And through that, I was able to write the short script that won this competition that was selected to be filmed in New York last June. And I've always enjoyed writing short stories, but I didn't really make the transition to screenplays until college, which allowed me to sort of stretch my legs and venture into that world.
Okay, very good. Interesting. Samuel, what about you? What got you into writing?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here, and I really appreciate that. I'm one of the winner. Basically, I'm more like a film director than a writer, because I've been doing film, producing my own movies back almost like 15 years ago. But I I wrote last year. I wrote a TV show for a friend of mine because we were talking about it, and the way it was explained the story to me, and I felt like this is something I can relate to. I was like, oh, I can write. And I ended up writing about like 20 episodes. So then come with that story that I really want to write, and just one day I woke up, I felt the energy, and I said to myself, wow, you know what, that's a good time because I feel inspired by my own story now. I'll just go ahead and write The Last Slave, so which I'm really proud of, and here I am.
The Last Slave is the winner for Best Feature Script this edition. Congrats on that. JW, this is your turn. What got you into writing?
I was started out as a stand-up comedian, and so there's always obviously a little bit of writing involved in that, although it's like noticeably more short form.
Yes.
Because you're joke writing, and joke writing for me always felt very dialogue based. And so then I started writing scripts. And to be honest, a big part of me getting into writing is that I, as a performer, was cast in stuff that I was like, this could be better written. Eventually I was like, maybe I should be the person to write that better script. And I've always just been a big TV fan. Folks like Samuel, who can write feature-length stuff, I think is incredibly impressive. I like writing more short-form things. So writing a TV pilot, writing episodes, writing in that way always appealed to me a lot more.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit later because your bio calls for that, definitely. Mike, the book, it's 400 pages. Am I right?
444, yes.
444 pages. Why so long? What is the story about that called for that long of a book? And I love a long book. I mean, I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings, and the story, I know the story you tell, but why that format? That's my question.
It started out, I found an article in Science News about the first use of spices in Neolithic Europe. So basically, scientists found evidence that garlic mustard was used as a spice in food. And that gave me a lot to think about. So I read up what else was happening around the time. I thought, I can turn this into a story based on true archaeological facts. So I first wrote the screenplay. I wrote that very quickly. And then I said, well, I would like to deal a little bit more with this subject. So I continued writing. I usually develop a logo with the story. So I developed the logo once I knew what the story was about. The two ravens are very important. Then I sketched the world that it took place in. For example, here's a sketch, I don't know if you can see it, of the village. It is not historically accurate. I had to change it because, I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
Otherwise, the story wouldn't work. So I did take some poetic liberty, but then I started sketching basically a storyboard. I created a storyboard for the story. Here's one of the drawings in the book. I didn't do the final drawing. I only do the sketches. I have an artist finish those sketches. And then I went completely overboard. I also wrote music. I got 5 songs in the book.
I've been told that you have music already made for the project. I also flipped through some pages of it's almost a comic book you have. It's more than a story. It's not a storyboard. It's really a visual story that you had that artist draw. It's pretty amazing because you can read it. I mean, it makes it visual. So it seems to be important for you.
Absolutely. It all goes together. So basically, I created the world at the same time that I wrote the story, and that's why it got so long. And you see, the music, I actually learned to perform it. I got myself this drum with 2 ravens. It's a shaman drum, and it actually comes from the area where the protagonist comes from in the story. Okay. Coincidence, right? And then I also learned to play the flute. Thanks to COVID, I created this pan flute myself. You might recognize this. This is a harmonica holder. And I attached a pan flute with liquid nails to it, and I learned to play this. So I learned to perform the music that I wrote for the story.
So you really invested yourself in that project in more than one way.
Yes, it is basically creating a whole piece of art or a whole story with everything that is part of it, including maps, all the maps, what it approximately looked like 6,000 or 8,000 years ago. By the way, one of the core of the story is that Doggerland, the land that once connected the British Isles to continental Europe, sank into the sea, into what is now the North Sea. But there are many different theories as to how that land disappeared and when exactly it happened. So I intentionally left all of that ambiguous in the story. So I don't tell you it is the year 6,000 before Christ or something and the land is sinking. I left all of that ambiguous. I took out all indications. Nobody can pinpoint what year it is and what exactly was going on at the same time. But yes, it has the drawings, it has the maps, it has the story, and I just couldn't stop because I worked on all of this at the same time. I couldn't stop myself. So
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. And if you guys want to know more about that, I know that on the website of the Script Rewards, there are a couple of videos of Mike and the content he created for his script, if you want to take a look at that. Branislava, what is your script about? What is American Dream about?
Well, American Dream is a short script about the Serbian immigrant that struggled to assimilate into a new culture while trying to maintain her own identity. And in this story, we see one particular moment in her life where she feels frustrated, overwhelmed, and lost, thinking about all of the obstacles that she's facing and questioning, was it worth it, leaving everything behind and coming into a new culture and country. And she feels lonely, she feels isolated, she's missing her family, but going home is not an option for her.
It's not an option. Okay. Samuel, what is your story about? What is The Last Slave about?
Last Slave is about a young woman who fled Haiti. She escaped and she left her daughter and all of her family, but it just after her husband died, during the political situation that was happening. There's a little bit of truth about the story to, since I'm from Haiti, and there's a lot I can relate to and a lot I add into this, although it's a fiction. And so when she take a board, they crash into the Florida, and she end up get kidnapped at some point because she had no identity, nothing that can really prove who she is. And there's this man, who was a bigot and who feel like, he has to take a matter to his own hand to actually he didn't like immigrants. So he said, okay, I'm gonna do something about it. Then that's pretty much where I can stop with the story. I don't want to give too much. And that's actually where her life actually started.
That's the start of the challenges. Ian, Home of the Brave, what is it about? Can you pitch that to us?
Yeah, so Home of the Brave is essentially about a veteran of the Afghanistan War and a veteran of the Vietnam War who meet at a bar, a veterans bar one evening, and start playing chess with one another as the Afghanistan withdrawal is occurring on the television beside them. And they, throughout the evening, as they play chess, they gradually just describe their experiences on how they got into the war, what it took from them. Like the Vietnam vet was drafted into it through the draft lottery, whereas the Afghanistan vet willingly volunteered after the events of 9/11. And a quote that always struck me was, I believe it was Mark Twain that said, history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but does rhyme. And when I saw the Afghanistan withdrawal on television, it just, the similarities and parallels between that and the withdrawal from Saigon just really struck me. And I just kind of wanted to explore the dichotomy of those two wars through the vehicle of these two characters. And then as the night and their chess game progresses, they gradually come to discover they have more in common than they initially thought. And their tragic pasts have bound them in a really unique way, unbeknownst to one of them. And I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, that's the essential elevator pitch of it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Samuel, back to you. You mentioned gently that your hero, she meets a man who's not that nice to her. Your script really is, it's an immigration story, but it also tackles, let's say it, modern day slavery, how all that entails. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I wanted to use, because most likely that's what I did. I use a lot of things that are happening right now, the kind of things that are going on nowadays. And with the true event that happened back in 2002, that's how I start the script. Because I used to live in Miami, and I remember just like I start the script, and I remember this even happened in Miami where a group of Haitian migrants just like crashed on the at the Miami shore. I think at Key Biscayne back then, and then and the story started clicked me then, and I'm like, what if one of those people get lost and end up in somewhere they shouldn't be? So
because basically you witnessed a boat and people jumping out of the boat,
jumping out of the boat, going everywhere. They don't know where they at. I mean, they in a foreign country where they have no knowledge of where to go, what to do, but they just like run away, and it hit me then. So back to 20 years later, which is now, thinking about all of this, and with also, as we know, the immigration system that going on, everything, and it hit me again. I'm like, you know what? I need to bring a message to on both sides. Although I know the script is pretty hard and tough the way it is. Although you already know what's going on in the story, but however, I want to keep it. I want to be honest about it. I want to be honest about the conversation and all of the dialogue that I use on my script. It's pretty much things I've heard and things that stay on TV, and you can deny none of that. It's all true.
It's happened. It's all true. Branislava, American Dream also is an immigrant story. You are an immigrant yourself. How much of your story is true?
I don't want to say it's based on my story, but there's a lot of me in this script for sure, and my experience as an immigrant coming here. And yes, there's a lot of me there.
A lot of you.
Yes.
Samuel mentioned the dialogue, that he heard stuff that he put in the script. He saw people acting in a way he put also in the script. How do you translate something you experience into something that's gonna have as much power in a script?
I don't look for a power. I just look for a truth. I think that's the most powerful thing that I can present. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Ian, you started writing with a school program?
Yeah, there was this New York program at my school, and my teacher told me about it. However, all the scripts I had written prior to hearing about it didn't necessarily fit in with the program. They wouldn't necessarily be able to feasibly be filmed with the location that we were at. And so when I heard about that, I wanted to make it more New York based. And so that's when I decided to start writing the Home of the Brave.
So you had written some scripts before going to that New York program?
Yeah, but they weren't necessarily feasible to film because a lot of them took place in just suburban areas, whereas we'd be filming in a city. And so I wanted it to be more New York oriented. And the first thing I honestly thought about was 9/11 and the Afghanistan withdrawal just happened when I heard about this, and those two things just kind of clicked together, and that's when I came up with the idea for Home Afraid.
Okay, thank you. Mike, you have a master's in political science. You
Correct.
are also a Juris Doctor.
Yes.
I don't even know what that means.
That's the professional lawyer title in the United States.
And you are Master of Laws. What does that mean?
The Master of Law comes after the Juris Doctor. It's sort of a finishing degree for lawyers. I would not recommend it to you in case you're considering law school. Don't do it.
Okay. What surprised me when I read part of the script, and even more when I saw the drawings and the illustrations, I could not connect, like, how does that guy with that resume tells a story that's the final days of Doggerland? What's the connection? Is it an escape for you? Is it another world you want to explore? How do you feel about it?
Specifically, the final days of Doggerland?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. It is imagining what life must have been like. Getting away from the current environment, from the current law practice, from everything that surrounds me completely, and creating a world yet based on archaeological facts. That's why I created maps, drawings, music, an entire world. By the way, this idea of creating an entire world, it's not that I am the one who invented this. It actually came from the clan of the cave bear. I don't know if you remember this story from the 1980s. It was also a film. The author also created an entire world, and I found that tremendously inspiring. Of course, her story is very different time period, different people, Cro-Magnon people. But the idea of creating an entire world, not just creating a story within the environment or the world that you are living in or that I am living in this case, practicing lawyer, trying to get out of it. I try to create the entire world.
Very interesting. And also I like the fact that you based some of the story on true facts, true things, true IDs, true findings that you used to base that world on.
Absolutely. That Doggerland sank into the sea, that there were migrations of people from the Black Sea, that blue-eyed people arrived in Northern Europe. They came from the Black Sea area. The use of spices in food. Absolutely.
JW, I'm not even, I think I forgot you for the pitch. Did I?
You did, but I'm not going to take offense to it.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's hard to pivot to my real dumb pilot that I love very much after all these like really, really intelligent sounding stuff. So I get it.
So give us a break. Give us some comedy. Give us something to laugh about.
Sure. So my Noise Coffee came from my want to play with genre. I was really inspired by the recent reboot of One Day at a Time. And I thought it really showed that the multicam sitcom can still work. It just has to be well written, well acted, have a good story, have, characters that you want to root for, in this case, a family. And I thought, what's the multicam sitcom for the current generation? And so a lot of it plays with the tropes of those more classic sitcoms. And then the other half of it was that I really wanted to have like a dumb queer comedy, because I honestly think that my community, the LGBTQ plus community, we don't have enough dumb stuff on television. We get a lot of stuff that tells coming out stories and traumatic events. And I think it's changing a little bit with movies like Bros in theaters. Like that shift is starting to happen, but we don't have stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. And I was like, how can I give what me and my friends talk about, how we act, that kind of humor? And there's nothing I love more than well done stupid.
Yes, it's not that common, even in cinema. There was the 90s and early 2000s. We had the Farrelly Brothers. We had some comedies that really played dumb in a smart way. But even on TV and even on streaming today, everything is so serious. And I was interested in something multicam sitcom, but there's a concept. There's a black wall, and the thoughts of the characters appear on the black wall, which means what you can read is not necessarily what the characters say. Correct?
Exactly. So I was thinking, I was like, you know, multicam sitcoms in a lot of ways are like watching a play because they only take place in a couple of locations. The audience is always from one perspective. So to play around with a multicam format, I'd be like, what could I do as if it was a play happening? So for example, one of the things that happens is they have a flashback, but what would actually happen in the show is the lights would go down, the characters would quickly run to these other places, and the lights would go back up and the scene would continue, but the actors would actually be out of breath from moving. So it's like, how can you play around with the conventions of a multicam and kind of comment on that in a little bit of a meta way?
Okay, interesting. Very good. We said something in the beginning. I don't remember who said that eventually the pandemic, gave the opportunity to have more time to write. Was it the case for all of you, or did you do something else during the COVID stuff?
Ian,
go for it.
I think the COVID pandemic, if anything, just exacerbated my desire to want to pursue screenwriting, because before that I was distracted by a lot of other things and my mind was often elsewhere. In fact, Mike, I wanted to go to law school and I was studying for law school for quite a bit. But then when the pandemic hit, I had a lot more time to just focus on things I had a true passion for. And that's when I just really delved into screenwriting. I wrote a feature-length script throughout it. And that's when I genuinely discovered, once I was free of distractions, that this is what I genuinely wanted to do.
Yeah. Anything else wants to touch base on that? Who took advantage of COVID, if I can phrase it that way? Samuel.
Yeah, I did. I wrote 20 episodes for a friend, you know, and that was a great time because I had time to, you know, be home and most likely more focus on, you know, what I need to write and, you know, and watch a lot of TV shows as well and inspired by so many other things. And that pushed me a lot.
Okay. Anybody else? JW?
I'll say that with the pandemic, I was just about to write on a show. I'd been a writer on just a couple of things, but those opportunities were fresh. I got hired 1 or 2 weeks before the pandemic. That show went on hiatus temporarily. It never came back. And then I was unemployed for about 6 months. And I definitely used that opportunity, as I'm sure some folks did, where now that I have kind of unlimited free time, am I actually going to work on these projects that I've been thinking about, that I've been brainstorming on? And if I'm not going to work on them now, maybe it means I should go on to another project, because usually my excuse for not doing something is
I don't have time.
But that was no longer the case. So it definitely caused me to do that.
Yeah. So if you don't do it, if you didn't do it now, that means you would never.
Yeah.
You have a lot of experience into the series format, the recurring stuff. You had a web series about Kylie Jenner's beauty tips. You had a show for Sony Pictures, sponsored by Sony Pictures. You worked on a live stream game show, Quiz Date. So like you said before, the serial format is really something that seems to fit you, something that comes back and you can tell the story again and again. What's the goal with Noise Coffee? Do you want to make it to an actual show? Do you want to pitch it? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I've been using it as the truest example of, if you hire JW Crump, this is the type of writing I'm going to give you. And because it's got because again, I've always, as a lot of writers do throughout their careers, had to find a time when we modified our voice to fit another project. For me, this is my purest expression of my voice and how I like dialogue to work and how I like to write characters and the kinds of jokes I'm going to write. And so it's the presentation of myself, and that's how I want to continue to use it. In terms of making it, I mean, would love, absolutely, as I'm sure all of us would love to do that. I wrote something that's very hard to film, but you know what? More difficult things have been filmed before, so I don't think that's an impossible task.
Ian, I wanted to ask you kind of the same question, but I read that you already made the film out of the script Home of the Brave, correct?
Yeah, on the New York trip. I submitted that to a few film festivals, actually, and it'll be premiering at the Virginia Film Festival come November.
Congrats.
No, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Because I've always been a screenwriter, but never really had the guts to want to actually go out and film something as a director, because I've always been honestly anxious to work with actors. But that was just an incredible experience that gave me the confidence to actually want to go out and shoot my scripts.
Good, very good. Thank you for that. Samuel, you say something in your bio that interested me. You said filmmaking is time consuming. End of quote. Can you elaborate on that? I love it. It's so true.
Well, it's something that I really love, but however, you put a lot into it, because it's like you living with the story. Once you have a story, whether someone write a script and you have to work on it as a director, which I am, and then that's most likely what I've been doing, and you really, put yourself, especially myself, once I'm on a project, it's really hard to really get me out of it. It's like I live with those characters, and I know those characters, and I can feel them. I can see them sometimes, a little bit crazy, but I feel like I can, and there's so much you really give into it, and at the end of the day, you like when you completely, me personally, like it's like I wear many hats. I'm also on the post-production. I do my own editing, and I do basically almost like 3 or 4 jobs. So you can imagine how much I put into that. Now, once I'm done, it's just, oh my God, it's like a load out of my shoulders. So,
Definitely, I can relate to that. Mike, I want to get back to you on something, because you also made a trailer for your book.
Yes, I did.
Which is very interesting. It's always very fascinating to me how you can create images for a script or for a book without the trailer being made for a movie. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's really a promotional endeavor that you take to help people get to open kind of a window, to open a door and invite them into your story. Can you tell me about the making of that video specifically?
Yes, that video, it was actually done very quickly. A friend of mine, a Navy SEAL, a former Navy SEAL, was visiting, and we were in touch. He said, we can film here at Fort Belvoir. They have a running path, and if you just sit down there, I'll record you. You read from your book, and then you play a little bit on your drum and flute. And that's what we did. That's how it came to be. I was trying to give an impression of the book in, less than 2 minutes. So I read a few lines from the book, and I performed one of the songs from the book in the video.
Okay, thank you. Again, you can watch that video on the YouTube page and Facebook page and website of the Script Awards Los Angeles.
So that the direction of the picture is in the script. Everything is in the script.